we study chapter of reproduction in organisms, unit 1, chapter 1. Okay. Reproduction is one of the fundamental characteristics of all the living organisms. Now, why is it one of the fundamental characteristics? Because without reproducing, no species will be able to survive on Earth. If there is no reproduction, if the species do not reproduce, they become extinct and finally they fade away from Earth. It's one of the fundamental characteristics. Secondly, what is basically reproduction? It is formation of young ones by fully grown up individuals. So, new young ones will be formed by individuals which have already grown up of the same species. Now let us understand the concept of lifespan. What is lifespan? Lifespan is basically all the time period for which any organism is alive. That means it is the period from birth to the natural death of the organism. So we can define it as period from birth to natural death of an organism. Now this lifespan will range from few minutes to 1,000 years. For example, mayfly has a lifespan of 1 day, while giant tortoise has a lifespan of 100 to 150 years. Now during lifespan, that means during lifetime, every organism passes through 4 stages. So we will now enlist 4 stages of lifespan. The first stage is called as juvenility. Now juvenility is the time period or the stage wherein the organism is in the process of being developed for reproduction. That means the body of the organism is undergoing processes so as to develop it to be able to reproduce. That is juvenility. Second stage of lifespan is maturity. Maturity is when the organism is actually able to reproduce. That means reproduction begins in this phase. Third stage is aging and senescence. Aging is the process wherein the body gradually deteriorates. That means every cell, every tissue, it's undergoing aging. It ages and then it undergoes gradual deterioration. When aging reaches a point from where it is irreversible, the aging wherein cannot be reversed, it is called as senescence. After aging and senescence comes the last stage of lifespan, that is called as death. Death is the stage where there is permanent stoppage of all vital activities of the organism. When I say permanent stoppage of vital activities, it means activities like respiration, metabolism, they all come to a permanent halt, and that is death. So these are the 4 stages of lifespan. Now the lifespan of an organism does not depend upon the size of the organism. It has nothing to do with the size of organism. For example, if I talk about crow and a parrot, they are similar in size. The size is almost same, but the lifespan of a crow is 15 years, and while that of a parrot is around 140 years. So the lifespan has nothing to do with the size of the organism. Now we come to the concept of reproduction. So reproduction, as I said, is basically formation of young ones by a fully grown up organism. So I will define it as organisms produce young ones similar to themselves. That is, they will produce young ones which are of the same species. It is a biological process. Now this reproduction is of two types. The division into its types is on three bases. First is the complexity of the structure of the organism's body. So that means on the basis of structural complexity, the mode of reproduction depends. After structural complexity, it is the physiology, that is the functioning of the organism's body. So it is the physiology on which the mode of reproduction depends. Third factor is the habitat, the place where the organism lives and survives. On that also depends the mode of reproduction. Basically, there are two modes of reproduction. The first is asexual mode, and second is sexual mode of reproduction. Let us first understand the asexual mode. Asexual mode of reproduction means wherein only one parent is required to produce the offspring. When I say offspring, I mean the progeny or the next generation. So here only one parent is involved. Two parents are not required to produce an offspring. So the main point is one parent is involved in formation of a new individual. So we now study the first mode of reproduction, asexual reproduction. In this mode of reproduction, it is only one parent which produces the offspring. When I say offspring, it means the next generation or the progeny, the new individual of the next generation. So only one parent is involved in this mode. The offspring that is produced is an exact copy of the parent, and all the offsprings that are produced are identical to each other. So when these offsprings are morphologically, that means structurally similar to each other and functionally similar to each other, they are called as clones. Because they are morphologically and functionally similar to each other, they are called as clones. Thirdly, they undergo rapid multiplication. Here, the cell division occurs by mitosis only. And the multiplication is rapid. Just because one parent is involved, there are no gametes. If there are no gametes, there is no fusion of gametes. There is no fusion of gametes means no fertilization is taking place. So no fusion, no fertilization, basically no gametes. So asexual reproduction is the mode of reproduction wherein one parent produces the new offspring. Multiplication here is very rapid. Cell division is the mode, and mitosis is the type of cell division that is occurring. The offsprings which are produced are identical to each other. They are morphologically and functionally similar, so they are called as clones. They are complete exact copy of the parent. There is no gamete, no fusion of gametes, and no fertilization taking place. Now this mode of reproduction is seen in basically most of the unicellular organisms, like the Monera and the protists. Besides these unicellular organisms, it is also seen in plants and simple animals. Simple animals here means those with a simple body organization, wherein the body organization, the body systems are not complex, they are simple. So they are plants and animals of the lower order, which are not highly evolved. So that was about asexual reproduction and introduction to it. Now coming to types of asexual reproduction. The first type is fission. Fission means when the parent cell or the parent body divides into parts. These parts may be 2 or more than that. That means the parent body divides and forms the offspring. The offsprings which are formed are always called as daughter individuals or the daughter cell. When the parent body divides into two, the fission is called as binary fission. So here, two daughter individuals are formed. When the parent body divides into more than two parts, it is called as multiple fission. So here, more than two daughter individuals are formed. Examples of fission are amoeba, paramecium, coming to second type of asexual reproduction, budding. In budding, there is an outgrowth which forms on one side of the cell. That means on one side of the parent body an outgrowth occurs. Then the nuclei of the parent cell divides. After division, the nucleus moves into the outgrowth. This outgrowth is called as the bud. Now the bud has the nucleus and it is an outgrowth on the parent body. The bud now detaches from the parent body and it develops into an entire new individual. So here in budding, it is the bud which forms new individual. Example, cycon and yeast. Another thing about yeast is sometimes when the parent yeast forms buds, those buds may further form daughter buds. That stage of yeast wherein the parent body has bud and the bud has further daughter buds is called as torula. This stage is called as the torula stage and this process is called as torulation. The entire process is called as torulation, which is seen in yeast at times. Third type of asexual reproduction is fragmentation. A fragment basically means a piece. So here the parent body breaks up into pieces and every piece will then form into a new individual. So the parent body breaks up into fragments and this will form a new individual. Every fragment will grow into a new individual. Coming to the fourth type of asexual reproduction, that's called as gamma. Now gamma means any structure on the parent plant or the parent body. It detaches, the structure detaches from the parent body and it grows into a new individual. Here in budding we saw that the bud is an outgrowth on the parent body, but in gamma, a part of the parent body separates from the parent and it develops into a new individual. For example, in Mercantia, there are green structures which are called as gamma cups. Now these gamma cups have the gamete. The gamete separate from the parent body and develop into new Mercantia daughter individuals. We go to the fifth type, that is regeneration. And basically, what is the meaning of regeneration? Regeneration means to generate something again. Here, regeneration will occur for two reasons. Here, the regeneration can occur for two reasons. One is for repair of the body. For example, when any part of the body of the organism is injured, it grows up again. It regenerates itself. Simplest example being tail of the wall lizard. We have seen that if because of injury the tail of the lizard gets separated from its body, it regenerates itself. Secondly, the regeneration can also occur from a small part of the organism and develop into a complete organism. That means even if a small part of the organism is available, it will grow and develop into an entire new organism. So a small part forms the new organism. For example, this occurs in Hydra. The next type of asexual reproduction is vegetative propagation. In vegetative propagation, it is the vegetative unit of the organism. This occurs mainly in plants. So the vegetative part of the plant helps to develop a new individual. Examples could be suckers, runners, rhizomes. What happens in this, for example, these could be buds also. Buds are seen in potatoes. If you have noticed, there are those buds, white colored buds on potato. Now these buds are basically nodes. Here these nodes can give rise to an entire new plantlet. It can form a new plantlet when it comes in contact with moisture or water. So the buds that are present on the potato, when it comes in contact with moisture, as in water or moist soil, it will develop into a new plantlet. Another example is water hyacinth plant. Now, water hyacinth multiplies very rapidly. The rate of multiplication is so rapid that it is difficult to control the spread of water hyacinth over the water body. It develops and multiplies so rapidly, it covers the entire water body. So this is a runner. Water hyacinth is a runner which can cover an entire water body. Now we go to the last type of asexual reproduction. Okay, now we go to the last type of asexual reproduction, that is spore formation. This is also called as sporulation. Spores are basically small, minute bodies which help in propagation of the organism. That means they help to propagate the organism further. So these are small, minute bodies. Spores are capable of dispersing. Dispersing means they spread around and then they form new individuals. So the property of dispersal is important. There are 5 types of spores. First is zoospores. Zoospores are important from MCQ point of view because these are the only motile spores. Zoospores have flagella, which is responsible for the property of their motility. Other types of spores are conidia, chlamydospores, then there are oidia, and the last one are sporangiospores. So now which types of organisms undergo spore formation? Basically, simple organisms like algae, fungi, monera, and protista. These are the 4 types of organisms which undergo spore formation. So this was 7 types of asexual reproduction. Now we go to second type of reproduction, that is sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, there are 2 parents involved. So the new individual develops from 2 parents. So here there is presence of gametes. There are 2 gametes, one from each sex. So one male gamete and the other is female gamete. Now this male and female gamete will then fuse. That means there is fertilization taking place. After fertilization, what is formed is called as the zygote. The zygote will then undergo mitosis, lots of mitosis, and it will form embryo. This embryo will then further form the entire new individual. So here we can say there are 4 steps involved. The first step is gametogenesis. Gametogenesis, that means genesis of the gamete, that is formation of the gamete. Now these gametes are haploid. We write them as N. After gametogenesis, the next step is fusion of the gametes, that means fertilization. Third step is embryogenesis. Here in fertilization, because 2 haploid gametes are fusing, what is formed is a diploid zygote. This diploid zygote then undergoes mitosis to form embryo. The process is called as embryogenesis. The embryo then further develops into a new individual. So the last step is development. Now, sexual reproduction is also seen in some simple plants and animals in unfavorable conditions. So what happens is, under favorable conditions, they are undergoing asexual reproduction. But when the conditions are unfavorable, they produce gametes. These gametes will then fuse to form zygote. Zygote then further forms spores, that is, it forms zygospores. These zygospores will then disperse, so they spread. And after dispersal, they will form the new individual when the conditions turn favorable, only then. So when the conditions are unfavorable, gametes will be formed. And then zygote, further zygospore. Zygospores will disperse, and when the condition turns favorable, the dispersed zygospore will form the new individual. So here the new individual is formed only in favorable condition. Next, we go to types of sexual reproduction, 2 types. First is syngamy and second is conjugation. Let us look at syngamy. Syngamy basically means complete fusion of the male and the female gamete. So there is complete fusion occurring here. Syngamy is again of 2 types. Endogamy. Endogamy means both the gametes are being produced by the same individual. That means the male and the female gamete are produced by the same organism or the same individual. For example, the tapeworm. Biological name for the tapeworm is Taenia. Now, these are also called as hermaphrodites because they are capable of producing both the gametes. They are called as hermaphrodites. They are also called as bisexuals. And the third terminology for them is monoecious. So that was about endogamy. Second type of syngamy is exogamy. In exogamy, both the gametes are being produced by different individuals. So here the male and the female gamete are by different individuals. These individuals are also called as being unisexual, or they are also called as dioecious. Example, rabbit. There are certain hermaphrodites also which will be included in exogamy. For example, earthworm is a hermaphrodite, but the male and the female reproductive organs of one earthworm mature at different times. So, for fusion, that is when fertilization takes place, it is the male and the female gamete from different earthworms which fuse. Though they are being produced in one single body, but at the time of fusion they are exchanged. So these are also included in exogamy. Earthworm and leech are two examples of being hermaphrodites, but at the same time exhibiting exogamy. So that was about syngamy. Now let us look at what are the basic features of reproduction. There are three basic features. For reproduction, what is required? At the base level, the cells have to multiply or they have to divide. So the first feature is cell division. Cell division is of two types: mitosis and meiosis. Now in mitosis, when the daughter cells are formed, the chromosomes which were present in the parent cell, for example, if there was 2n chromosomes in the parent cell, the daughter cell will also receive the same number of chromosomes. The chromosomes will be equally divided between the daughter cells, and finally they will have the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. So this is also called as equational division. Equational division because they are receiving equal number of chromosomes. Whereas in meiosis, the daughter cell receives half the number of chromosomes as the parent cell. So if the parent cell has 2n, the daughter cell which is formed will receive n. So here in meiosis, the number of chromosomes is getting reduced. That is why it is called as reductional division. It is during meiosis that the chromosomes cross over each other. Now because of crossing over, there is variation. Crossing over takes place and variations are produced in the daughter cells. This was the first basic feature of reproduction. Second basic feature of reproduction is duplication of cellular apparatus. Now, whatever apparatus or organelles which are present in the cell need to be duplicated before the new individual is formed. So, duplication of cellular apparatus. The most important are the chromosomes. So, replication of chromosomes has to take place. Now this is occurring in the nucleus of the cell. Besides the chromosomes being replicated, we need RNA. So RNA synthesis or RNA duplication has to occur. We also need proteins. So protein synthesis. So for duplication of cellular apparatus, the main 3 points would be replication of the chromosomes in the nucleus, RNA synthesis, and protein synthesis. Coming to the last feature, basic feature of reproduction is formation of reproductive units. Now these reproductive units are certain parts of the organism which will undergo modification to produce a new individual, or they will separate from the parent body and form a new individual. So the reproductive units or certain parts of the organism get modified and form a new individual, or they will separate from the parent and form a new individual. So this was about basic features of reproduction, there being 3 main features: cell division, duplication of cellular apparatus, and formation of reproductive units.